You're tuning into the Journey to Your Best Self podcast brought to you by Your One Self, where we explore the path to holistic well-being, personal growth, and living a fulfilling life. Each episode, we bring you insightful conversations, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you integrate your mind, body, and spirit all along your journey to becoming your best self. Now let's dive in and embark on this journey together. And welcome back to the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill, joined by my sister, Tara, certified life coach, clinical hypnotherapist, and yoga instructor. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to welcome a truly transformative figure in the world of personal growth and healing, Evelyn Wang. Evelyn is the co-founder of the Center for Advanced Life Skills and a board-certified hypnotherapist, NLP trainer, and life coach. The fascinating personal journey spanning cultures, disciplines, and countless certifications, Evelyn has mastered the art and science of helping people break through mental and emotional barriers. From her work with chronic pain management to empowering individuals to embrace their inner strength, Evelyn's approach combines cutting-edge techniques with deep and passionate insights. So I think everyone listening, tuning in, watching is going to have a lot to learn. And we're so excited to dive into not only Evelyn's inspiring story, but just learn from her experience about healing and transformation. And as we talk about on Yoast, living an authentic life. So without any further ado, Evelyn, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tara and Brian, for having me. This is going to be fun. So, as Brian said, I am the co-founder of Center for Advanced Life Skills, and our center provide hypnotherapy and NLP certification, and as well as mindfulness. And me and my partner, we also work with clients one-on-one. And how I started this journey was I was out of a job. It was I worked in corporate for many years, and I was laid off. And at the same time, my dad was not feeling well, so unfortunately, I lost him at that time, 2011. And I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to go back to corporate. I was in sales and customer service for many, many years. And so I met my partner, Jack, and he's been in the personal development field for a very long time. And he started talking about it. And when my dad passed away, I wanted to mend my relationship with my mother and didn't really have a good relationship with my parents. Sort of these black sheep in the family. So I did what I wanted in a sense, and didn't follow the traditional culture, what my parents wanted us to do. So I wanted to have a good relationship with my mother. So when Jack came along, we started talking about going to school, and he found a hypnosis school. And I thought, well, if I can go to school and learn a tool that can help someone, maybe I can help myself to change and to improve. And that I did. I worked with my mentor. I worked with the modalities that I know how to do now. And I have changed my relationship, the strained relationship with my mother. Now I talk to her weekly on the phone because she's in Taiwan. So that alone in itself for me really made an impact on the work that I do, especially my personal journey of just really living the change and the improvement. And, since I changed, not only I changed myself, but it kind of just resonated with the people around me. So that's how I got started with this personal journey. It's for my personal change, and also it just came in the right time that I wasn't working, so I can
Have you noticed that people pre 2011 and post when you started really making progress on the journey, maybe that you hadn't seen, noticed something different in you, or said you had, I don't know, transformed is too lofty of a term, but you had changed in some kind of significant
Yeah, I think the change is, on the surface wow, I changed the way I relate to my mom. Now we can talk now. And the deeper part of it is about me taking responsibility of me, my reaction towards that person, especially your mother. I mean, that's the connection that you have, and that's your primary caretaker, right? So when we're born, our parents teach us things we need to know. So in our hypnosis world is they're writing our script, right? When we're young. So then when we grow older, we start learning things from our peers, from our teachers, our friends. And then that's when you decide, okay, your critical mind is helping you to decide, is this right for me or not? But whatever that's embedded in you when you're young, probably age from 0 to 7 or 8, that time is everything you learn and you're absorbing like a sponge from your primary caretaker, right? So the things that I held on to interacting with my mother, and it was what I believed, and it was that rebellious part of me too. You don't tell me what to do. One of those, and and especially the culture we shifted from Taiwan. From Taiwan, we moved from Taiwan. I'm from Taiwan, so moved from Taiwan to Guam and then to California. So it's the culture shift as well. But for me personally, when I was young, I've always been very, very curious, even in Taiwan. So it's always like things differently than my siblings. So when we moved to Guam, which is US culture, I was more like, wow, I want to explore, I want to do different things. So so that created also friction, right? Because my parents are very strict.
Yeah,
So
that's so I don't know if people are just listening. I'm just if you can't see my face, I'm just sitting in admiration because Evelyn is my mentor, and I went to my training at the Center for Advanced Life Skills, and that was life changing. And funny how Evelyn was called to it. And a lot of people, they don't necessarily maybe grow up. I want to be a hypnotherapist or do hypnosis or do personal growth work, but it finds you when the time is right. And it just fell into my world, my lap when I was living out in California. And I had a conversation on the phone with Evelyn. And I just knew automatically this is where I was supposed to be. And I will say, yes, I'm biased, but I will say it's probably the best, hypnotherapy, neuro-linguistic, mindfulness training that you can get, because what's so special is it's grounded, right? It is definitely not the spiritual bypass of some of the modalities that can be out there in terms of
mhm,
personal growth. So I love that you speak to that 0 to 7, 8 year old, really important, like really, really important years, for
mhm.
sure. So let's start by saying, what do we do for those who have children that are at that age that they're like, well, I don't want to mess up my kids, right? I don't want to redo what maybe our parents did. And not to blame any parents, right? We know that it was just generational. They did the best they could in the times. So once we remove that blame, currently in our world where it's inundated with social media, how do we teach our children, not the right way, but a more conscious way of growing up?
Yeah, it is very you can utilize a lot of tools, right? Because what I like to do is the easiest way when you're working with someone or just helping someone is to really listen to them and watch them what they're doing right now. So for example, if someone for kids, they love to play video games, right? So utilizing that, you can say, well, my kid is not paying attention to me because all he does is focus on the video. Well, the subject comes up with ADD, ADHD. Now, is it really true they don't have attention? They have attention where they want to put their attention to. So they're paying attention to the video game. So then you're going to utilize it, right? So a lot of parents don't maybe this is out of the norm that what you would do, but some parents like to explore. So as the kid is playing, You can sit there and just watch them play. Sometimes they even like that. And that's when, if their focus is on the video game, that's when you can start talking to them. I mean, not in depth. You're not talking about a problem, but utilizing the conversation, you'll be interested of the game. Show me how you're doing this and how to utilize that, because they're telling you their strategies, what they're thinking, how they're thinking. So utilize that to talk to them. So then this way it doesn't seem like or feel like mom or dad is trying to talk to me. The talk, that's where everything shuts off. And we've all been there. We all been young once in our life. We all been there. It's like, okay, I know what's best for me. I don't need to hear you anymore. So if you enter into their model of the world, which is, that's a jargon, which is their perspective, their world, what they like, that's how that's how you build rapport, right? You already have rapport with your kids because you're their parents. But the reports, the other building of the rapport, it's different because you're entering into their world to speak their language. I think that's really important, because teaching the kids, if a lot of hypnotherapists and any parents do this already, they may be reading bedtime stories, for their kids when they go to bed. That's a form of hypnosis. It's storytelling,
Yeah.
that's trance,
Can
right?
can you actually talk about the power of metaphors when we talk about a trance or storytelling? Um, that would be really helpful, maybe, to, because you just explain it so well in that, the trance is a normal state, right, that we're in and out of throughout the day. So we're going to utilize that. Can
Right.
you expand on how the storytelling and the right side of the brain, I know that's an oversimplification, but
Mhm.
how that helps, helps us to learn more about our own processes?
Yeah, the metaphors, the stories, it's everyone likes stories, right? And when you talk about stories, it's usually it's not about them, it's somebody else. And this is just human nature. Everyone likes to hear other people's stories and their challenges and their problems. So our unconscious mind, which is our subconscious mind, speak to us in symbols, just like the dreams that we have. That's why a lot of people, how do you interpret my dreams? What do they mean? Well, it means whatever it means to the person that dreamt it. So it could be different things. But that's how our deeper self, our subconscious mind, communicate with us. So when we use metaphors, we use stories, every story has a moral, or the moral of the story, or there's a point to it. As we know, Disney, the animation films, they're telling a story and there's a moral of the story.
Yeah.
What are they teaching you? So with our mind, that's how we learn. I mean, that's how our unconscious mind communicates with us, is through symbols, messages, and stories. So, and what Tara mentioned is, yes, all of us go into a trance, a light trance, every 90 minutes. And that's why you see most classes in classroom, every 90 minutes is a 15-minute break. So because that's natural, you know that we've done this before too. When you're studying, after a while, what happens? You either fall asleep reading, right? Or you get to a point you don't even know what you're reading anymore, because it becomes a blur. So hypnosis is self-hypnosis. It's all about focused attention. Wherever that you're focused on, the period of time, you just put yourself in a trance, and that's called self-hypnosis. So with hypnotherapy, if the person does not want to be hypnotized, we're not going to work with them. But we know that they can be hypnotized because they can hypnotize themselves. I mean, you think about the word hypnotize, you hear love songs, I'm hypnotized by you. What does that even mean? because you're focused on that person, right? So you can be focused on anything. And so what we do as a hypnotherapist and NLP coach is to help someone who's in trance of their disempowerment and move them to a trance of empowerment. Because most people are in trance of their problem.
I love that. Most people are entranced with their problem. And going back to what a really important part of it, life-changing for me, because I could never really understand how to quite explain everyone's reality. It's like subjective reality, right? But when I learned of everyone's model of the world and how to explain it that way, it made a lot of sense, right? No two people are ever going to have the same experiences, but can you explain to somebody that isn't quite familiar with each person has a different model of the world? Can you explain that?
Yeah. Let's say if someone says, I hope this is not too gross for your audience, but this is an example. A client of mine, I wasn't able to make the appointment because I broke out a rash, right? So I wanted to, it was the last minute because it just flared up. So I had to tell her I had to reschedule it. And so I took a picture of the rash just to prove it to her. So I have the rash. I really can't make it, you know? So then she said, oh, that's okay. I'm not grossed out. I like to watch all those medical stuff. And I said, oh, you do? So I sent her a medical procedure thing. And she goes, oh, not that. That's an example of I generalized it. When
Right.
she said I enjoy watching medical stuff, I generalized it like, oh, she just likes all the
Right.
medical stuff. And then I'm going to send her all the stuff. So this is what happens in our communication, right? You can be talking to your best friend too. Sometimes the words that they describe, the labels that they describe of certain things may mean differently than the way that you thought it was, right? So we talk about, you know, in NLP is we can delete information, you know. So for example, someone can say, everyone hates me at work. Well, what are they deleting? You know, and after some questioning, find out there's only 2 out of the 52 people that he thinks hate him. So if I let him live in the belief that everybody hates me, then he's not going to ever go to work, right? So I'm helping him to dissect that. You deleted some information there. You deleted that there is 50 people that like you and only 2 that doesn't like you, right? And then he generalized that everybody hates me, you know. So and then sometimes we can distort information too. Oh, he just went, you know, he just closed his eyes or made scrunch his nose, that means he doesn't like me. Well, how do you know that?
Yeah.
You know, maybe he was thinking about something, maybe he's eating something sour, we don't know. So that's what it is. It's like talking about the other person's model of the world is how they're thinking. They may not be thinking the same way. You know, there'll be one word that I can say, maybe it's independent. That could mean so many. I mean, there's a general meaning to it. You can look it up in the dictionary. However, what does that really, really mean to that person? I don't know yet. They probably don't know yet, but we're about to find out.
Yeah.
We can explore, right?
Yeah.
And
That's wonderful.
that's the fun part of the session.
Yes,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Right. And that's when people have their aha moments,
that's
right?
right.
Because they really truly are so attached to that belief, they can't see
Yeah,
those other 50 people that are
right.
there. Right. So in this work, you're helping them clear their own distortion, right? You're not doing anything per se. They're doing it. You're just introducing
Yeah,
or helping them clear the
right.
window,
Yeah, to give them
clear the fog.
a different perspective of their issues, right, or their challenge or their goals, because many times when we have a problem, it's right here. This is
Yeah.
all you're focusing on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is step out, step
Yeah.
out of it, because solution is outside. Because if you run out of these resources right here, the resources out here.
So what if that person takes that and fills it in with another distortion, right? And says, okay, well, now people, at the grocery store don't like me. Now, is there a bigger issue at play, a bigger belief that we have to go underneath? Like what's happening then?
Right. And we tend to, like our work, as you know, Tara, when people come in for a issue, it's never that issue that we're working on. Just use a, generally somebody come in for weight loss. We're not working with weight loss because we're working underneath weight loss. There's a lot of distortion, right? A lot of generalization. There's limiting beliefs. There's conflicts. There's flaw strategies, how they're doing things, and misaligned values. So it's all that. We call it the problem tree, right? So the tree builds up to this main problem, but that's probably not even it. But we're going to work with that, starting that, but we're going to listen for those things that's in the way of stopping them from getting where they want to go. So the work that we do is we're not just solving your problems, is we're here to transform your life.
Yeah.
So it's a personal development where, because when you take care of one area, one issue, that also will kind of pour into other areas of your life, because we're working with the client as a whole. It's a holistic approach. So that's where people think that because their problem is so much bigger than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it is, because when we're in the problem, it's really big.
Mm-hmm.
But have you ever noticed that if you talk to a friend or somebody, doesn't have to be a friend, someone's telling you about their problem, and if their problem almost seemingly a little bit almost like yours, but not quite the same, however, you have all the solutions for the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then if it comes to you, it's like, I don't know what to do. And
Right.
why? Because you're in it. When you're
Mm-hmm.
in it, it's hard to see, because you're in this box of problems. Right? So with the coach or a hypnotherapist practitioner is helping you to step out of the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or it's funny. It's not that, like, I don't even know what they're worried about. Like, they're fine. It's not that big of a deal, right? Like their problems aren't as big as mine, right? But ultimately, it's not a comparison.
Right. But it is, because of,
Yeah.
you're going through it, right? So that's the phenomenon of being a human, right? Having
Yeah.
issues and then the solutions. But it's really about just all this work. It's really within. You cannot change others, even though it does happen. You're not doing anything. As soon as you change yourself, people around you are going to change. They're either going to leave you because they don't like, they're not um, jiving with where you're at, and they'll just kind of move away. Or some people will just embrace with you and grow with you. And those are the true connections, right? Because they want to be around you, because your energy is going to exude that. And if
Yeah.
people want it, you're going to be attracting the same type of people.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love how you say, like, the problem's right here, right? Like, we know now, like, that energy fields are real and that there's stuff there, right? So we're moving it. Um, and so it's funny because when I first went to the school there, I had just come from yoga, and it was amazing how many overlaps there were with neuro-linguistic programming, and this ancient tradition, right? So NLP, really, there's so much wisdom in NLP. Can you explain? I know this is going to be a loaded minute, but can you explain what neuro-linguistic programming is in 30 seconds? Go.
Okay, go. So NLP can sum it up as, it's an art of helping others by helping yourself. So that's what NLP is. NLP stands for neuro, which is your neurology, your mind, you know. And then linguistic is verbal, language, and language could be verbal and also nonverbal, which is body language, right? And another language is self-talk. What are you saying to yourself? And then um, programming as patterns is our behavior patterns. So neuro-linguistic programming is the work of discovering the relationship between your mind and body. How are you talking to yourself? And neuro-linguistic programming coaching, it's more about the how. So I'm not interested about what my client's saying to me. I'm more interested about how they're processing their thinking. So that's how we help people. NLP it's about the how. And we're working with the conscious and the unconscious mind at the same time. So with I was just teaching a class this morning. I was telling the students that does not matter what modalities that you use if you're working with a client, whether it's energy healing, Reiki, spiritual pooling, shamanism, coaching, business coaching, hypnotherapy, does not, in my opinion, if you have the foundation of hypnosis and NLP, you can add whatever you want in there because that is the basis of all work.
Yeah.
If you go into energy healing, session, you're in a trance.
Yeah.
You're already in a trance. You're in a trance with the person that's working with you. And neuro-linguistic programming is about communication. It's about asking certain questions, how to ask questions. Don't you need that when you're in a session of healing? So it's asking questions and putting someone else in a trance, helping them to go into a trance on their own, right? So I think that's really the fundamental of any kind of personal development work or even holistic work, right? Well,
Yeah.
it is holistic work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And how is UCSD doing? So, for those who aren't aware, University of California in San Diego has the first hypnotherapy credited class taught in a university in the States. How's that going? How are people taking to it? I mean, obviously, like it's pretty big, to be in a very left brain, very academic environment.
Yeah, that's what it's very interesting because it is very left brain. And however, you notice when people are interested in this, they're already open to this type of information and they're very curious about it, So it's going well. It's a mixture of groups. It's a very short course. It's only an 8-week course. They're only learning the fundamental of hypnosis. So it's definitely very different than what you, Tara, went through. And they're not being certified as an NLP coach. Yeah, so they're just getting a little bit of concept of how well it works together, and I would say they need more education on that, but they have the fundamentals to start practicing, or some of them are therapists, so they can just start incorporating the practice. And that's what the beauty is. The hypnotherapy is a complementary method to any kind of practice. So it's a very powerful tool.
Yeah, for sure. Brian, when are you going to get your certification?
Right away.
Yeah.
Right away. I'm being inspired by this conversation, so I'm gonna finish up.
Brian has his,
ASAP.
yeah.
Mine's been a little longer than 8 weeks, my
Mm.
journey. So yeah, but I gotta get to it and stop procrastinating. I wanted to go back to the scenario with the workplace where 2 of the 52 people actually were the only ones that they had created this whole workforce of colleagues that didn't like them. Does it matter? Does it really matter if they do like them? I mean, I guess you might respond, well, it matters to my client, so that's why I helped them with it. And it's not for you to say, who cares, right? If two people just go and work, do your job, and that's it. Well, I guess I kind of put words in your mouth and answered the question for you.
Mhm.
I mean, does it matter? Is there a way you could have also taken the tact of maybe kind of having them build some resolve, so whether or not they are liked or not liked to the level
Mhm.
that they think in their mind is kind of irrelevant to kind of their feeling about themselves and their performance at work. That's
Right.
not really the focus or what they should really be locked in on. And then secondly, do you find that a lot of clients are really captured with and preoccupied with people liking me? And there's a lot of anxiety, right? And everyone has to be thinking about me, and everyone's kind of like watching me, what I do. Just anecdotally, I find that that's kind of more prevalent in recent years. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is the pandemic is actually that, wanting people to like them, or um or wondering or care about what other people think. And you're right with the example that I use, everybody hates me at work. Sure, the ultimate goal is to help them not to care about if they like you or not, just get in there and do your job. But if that's his problem for not going into work, then I'm going to
Yeah,
loosen
you have to
that
start
up.
there, right? Right.
Right. And
Okay.
then I'll
Okay.
work on something else, because it's
Hmm.
it's when we're working on this, it's any kind of issues, it's all layers. It's not just one thing. I'm sure I can say one thing and they may have an aha moment, but then that aha moment can carry to another issue, and then something else will come up. So the coaching part of it, in the session, is never linear, because you never know what's going to happen. And that's what's fun about it. It's like, I'm having my client to guide me so I can guide them. They're giving me all the information, and I'm just gonna ask questions, do some exercise, and then move them around. So,
Right.
so it is with the pandemic, I like to say, of care about what other people think. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
the second. So I guess sweet summer child that I am, right? I thought it was just, oh, so, it's not an easy
Mm.
fix. There's layers and onions, right? Imagine it was that
Yeah.
easy. So, of course, I stand corrected. There's definitely a step if they're frozen and they can't even get up and go to work. Yeah. And
Right.
then
Right.
ultimately you had the goal in mind
Yeah.
where to get them to. That's the second time you've said, I mean, it's a strong term, a pandemic, right? An epidemic of, can you speak to why that you're labeling it that? Because you've got so many more people that you've been working with. That's like societal layers of onion, right? There's something bigger going on if it's that widespread.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have
Mm-hmm.
any theories on why that is? And we can kind of collectively work together and try to get our way out of that.
Yeah. I mean, my opinion is just the social media. I mean, it doesn't even have to be social media. It came on even the advertisements. You see, especially with women, females, it's you need to look like this. I mean, this is I mean, how many years old of stuff that we're talking about? We've still been talking about it. Now we just added on another layer, which is the social media, and which is even easier. Now everybody's a model, everybody's taking pictures of themselves, everybody wants to be an influencer, right? And you see them showing, I got this, I got that. And these girls, the impression is, I need to be like that. And then all of a sudden you get these other messages and say, well, just be you. Okay, well, what is that? Then you got the extreme of showing people that's very overweight. Well, we don't know their health issues. So there's all these mixed messages, but all of them are all come down to what other people think. Because if I say that I don't like that, well, but I want to be in that group, but they're not going to like me anymore. So I need to change myself to fit into that group, but I don't really like myself, but I'm going to do it because I'm afraid what they're going to say about me. So this has nothing to do with age too. You know, I'm working with an entrepreneur, really making really good money, and he's the
Yeah.
boss. He's afraid of what people think. And then one of the things too I notice, not everybody does this, but I've noticed by working with people is they tend to use that and say, well, I can read people's energy. And I take that. I take on some people's energy, and you know, I know that I may be saying something wrong, so I need to watch myself. Now, I'm not saying that's not true. There's people that have, you know, they feel they're more open and they're more in tune with other people's energy, right? We all have that, but some people have it more than they're stronger than us. So that's also another layer. You know, I work with people that read cards, psychics, and able to see energy. Sometimes they don't know, is that your energy or theirs? You don't know anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where it's, and then it's that pressure of, no, it's me because I told people that I have this ability, so this is just me.
Yeah.
You know, so they can't change it. Now they're afraid of what other people think. Well, you said you were this and now you're this. You know, and so it's not just, I mean, it's just a society of how they're presenting information,
Yeah.
and you know, kind of helping this thinking, this fear. And
Yeah. Fear. That's the big word. You know, you made such a good point. I struggle with the word authenticity sometimes because there's this big wave of just be yourself, just be authentic. And it's like nobody knows who their self is, right? Please define self. If we're talking in terms of yoga, that means nothing, no conditioning, no ego, like nothing. So it's now, but then we have, well, you got to be, especially females, you have to look this way, you have to, you know, be an Olympic athlete, you got to be a super mother, you got to have your own business, you got to do the 17 million things and have a smile on your face, but be authentic at the same time, right? And so you're getting shamed. You can't do it right in terms of that. So I guess my question would be, for somebody who genuinely wants to figure out who am I, you know, can you talk about the identity and how we have the power to create the identity, and you know, then kind of to the point of feeling other people's energy, that once we have that, you know, we're no longer bombarded and not sure of whose energy is who, you know, in the world. So where do we start if someone's curious for personal growth?
Well, it's to start with is really, you know, before you do that, it's just asking yourself, I mean, am I happy where I'm at? Am I good where I'm at? I mean, it doesn't even have to be happy. It's like, are you good where you're at with the people around you? You know, and then you start looking at what you want to do, what your purpose is. What do you want to do? It doesn't have to be a 5-year goal. I like my clients to start something small, you know, because if some people, they're afraid to write goals down because they have doubt. They're afraid that what if it doesn't happen? So why even bother writing it down? So it's really helping them, you know, to see the possibility, you know, and then knowing that where they want to go. Because if they sit there and they ask themselves, no, I'm good, well, then obviously there's no problems to solve, right? But if they're sitting there thinking, you know, there's some aspect of my life, it's not going as the way that I want to. So the question is, what's stopping me? That would be the question to ask yourself. What's stopping me? What's in the way? You know, I mean, you may not have an answer right away. You can come up with maybe 2 or 3, and notice what your answer is. How many of those are others, and how many of those are yours? Because the work is to go inside, because the problems that you have, even if other people is involved, you're still part of the problem. The problem takes 2 people to tango, right? So if you're not dancing with the other person in a problem, there won't be dancing with anybody in that problem. But because you entertain yourself to be in the problem, right? The problem is started. It doesn't matter if the other person started it. It does not matter. You're the one who's carrying it. So which part of the problem did you contribute to? Now that would be the question to ask the clients, not, of course, not the first session, but,
Right.
slowly
They might
getting
not
to
come
them.
back.
Yeah. Slowly easing
So
them.
how'd you get in this mess?
Let's stop talking about everybody else. So what did you do? So that's really the hardest part, when someone is
Right.
ready to jump in. And I do have a book, if any of your listeners wants to check it out. It's called Letting Go. It's by David Hawkins, my favorite book. And the whole book is really about, you, in the first chapter, he named all these modalities.
Yes.
NLP, hypnosis, right?
Yes.
And then
Like 600 things. Like, went to do ayahuasca twice, went to every psychotherapist, did the toad lick frog thing. Yeah.
And then, and the point is, doesn't matter what you do. The main thing, the most important thing is for you to surrender into the process. If you're not surrendering into the process, it's not going to work. And that means you're resisting it, right? But there's ways to help someone to loosen that resistance, right, Tara? But it's for someone to, be open and commit to the work itself, because it's, sometimes it's not that fun, but we make it fun. I
Yeah,
know.
definitely.
I
Just to recap before Brian gets in there, just ask yourself right now, honestly, listeners, like, am I happy? Right? Am I happy? One, and then what's stopping me? Right? What's blocking me, preventing me?
Mm-hmm.
Brian?
Yeah, no, I do want to go back to something you had said earlier. This is, I guess, the $64,000 question that I come around to often is, where is authenticity is there an ideal though, right? Because like you said, there are so many different modalities and there's so many people looking, higher life goals, there's a lot of people searching. There's a lot of people trying to help them on that search. What's the destination? Is there an idealistic? Is there a personal, like, mecca? Is there place some people should be aspiring to? No, I can't believe it's just like whatever. It can't be different for everyone. I mean, there has to be some, guiding principles, right? That you or the NLP gurus of yesteryear and the originals want a hypnotherapist. I'm asking kind of for a worldview in a way, but where is everyone trying to get to, right? I feel like if we have an idea of maybe that destination, it could be easier in some way. Where should people aspire to go?
Yeah, I think my view for aspiring is to really helping yourself, right? To take yourself to a place where you are able to step out of your problem and have a solution of for yourself. And I think that's the aspiring. It's you knowing, let me rephrase it, you knowing that you are an individual, that you have your individual thoughts. And those thoughts and those opinions is yours. And the people's opinion and their thoughts is theirs. And I think that's, for me, it's the coaching part. That's why it's called personal development. You're developing yourself, right? So once you develop yourself, what can you do? Can you imagine what you can do? Can you imagine what you can have? Can you imagine how you can be? That's what the aspiring, with the concept is. A lot of times people say, if I have this, if I have a new car, I can do this, then I can be happy, right? That's generally what people aspire to, because it's my goal if I get that. But really, the aspiring part of living is you can have the happiness right now, right? If you just imagine something that you did that was fun and happy in your mind's eye right now, what's that going to do to your body? You're imagining something nice, your body's going to feel good, right? So it's about living a being happy. Then you can do what you want to do feeling happy, right? And then was it be to a have? So then you can have what you want. So that's what it is. It's the term emotional intelligence, right? Or emotional resilience. It's all about that. It's really about the emotions, because we're all very smart people. But once you have the emotions gets involved, it's all over. It's the emotion that's what drives it. And that's what we're working on, and when I work with pain management, that's what it is. It's the emotions that they're holding on to or they haven't acknowledged yet. Right. So that's
Yeah,
really
that's great. There's a tension that we can't really get into right now. You mentioned like something amazing actually that I've often thought about and we haven't really talked about a couple of sections ago, where you had said forever, right, women have been, whether it's magazines, TV, ads, right, Calvin Klein or whoever it was, now it's like bigger is better, right? You can afford to like feed yourself and be yourself. And it's like,
mm-hmm,
yes, you're this big American woman, or you're this life thigh
the
gap woman, right?
superwoman.
There's all these different standards
Yeah.
that's been forever, even before social media. Social media just exponentially increased it, right? But now it's like you just be an individual. It went from like getting into this group to now just being by you. It's amazing that you had said this in my mind. It's like now just like whatever. Now just like dad bods are cool. Just like let yourself go and just whatever you want. Be whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Doesn't matter what the group is, you just be you, right? If you want to like walk into church with like cut off shorts, like because that's like you living your best life, or you just want to kind of get up in the middle of class and just like protest this lesson that we're doing because like math is terrible and 2 + 2 = 5, like that's just you're an individual, right? But then it's like that you complain that you're not part of a group, you're ostracized, but you're also doing things that aren't part of like a collective. And I'm like really all about individualism and freedom and do what you want. That's great. But it's like it sometimes seems to me that you can't have it both ways, was what I'm saying. So there is some kind of balance that you have to have. If you're going to be an individual and do whatever you want to do, you're not going to be maybe accepted into a group that has some kind of values, beliefs, or whatever. So people, it's like they want everything. They want to be an individual. They want to be a part of every single group. And I just don't think it necessarily works that way. You don't really have to comment on that necessarily. I am curious, though, maybe this can be kind of an adjacent comparison. You mentioned Taiwan and you mentioned your connection there, right? A collectivist society. America, for however, 250 years almost, prides itself as being a really individualistic society. And as the generations pass, it becomes more and more so. What's the difference in happiness levels that anecdotally you see? Are you curious about that when you talk to people, maybe Eastern Hemisphere, where they're more part of a group and there can be less friction between the individual and the family or the town, the city, the village? People are kind of maybe working together traditionally, as opposed to here where we can be doing things together, but also very much on our own. Do you see a lot of differences there? Can you speak to that a little bit?
I don't see a difference in, the behavior itself, right? Whether you're the challenges but the group. I mean, I like to say like sometimes a group mentality, it's pretty much everywhere, really. And what I meant about, going back to the individual, the individual, it's not about doing whatever you want to do. It's more about your independent thinking, your individual thinking and your thoughts and your opinions is yours. rather than having someone else's opinion to instill on you, then you don't even know how to answer a question. You know, there's people, you ask a question, they're looking around to find someone giving them an answer. You know, this is where I'll just go in briefly when we talk about the evolutional growth. You know, there's a system that we teach, and it's very interesting when we're learning when we're born. It's a kind of human evolution. When we're born, you're survival mode, right? You're just crying and you're eating and pooping. So whatever. So then you grow to the next level, which is now you recognize there's your parents. Their parents tell you what to do. Then you go to the third level. If, you know, then it's like if you think about terrible twos or threes, it's all about me, 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 me. Right? And then you grow again to a system. So the system is when we go to work, there's a certain system, and religion is systems, black and white. Everything's black and white, right? But that's still we. So, and then you notice there's people that work in the corporation, in the business, and they decided, I don't want to work here anymore. I'm going to venture out and have my own business. Then you're moving to the next level. So as we grow, the pattern is I, we, I, we, I, we. That's just our evolutional growth. So if I'm working with someone and I can kind of, you know, as we talk and we explore, I'll see which level they're at. But none of us are in one level. We're constantly transitioning. So we're always in between 2 or 3 levels, right? So if they're in a level with a lot of, it's more we, and that's why I'll be embracing the we, yet I'm going to help them to know that you still have your opinions. It sometimes may not agree with the group that you're with, but also knowing that they also need to respect your opinions. That's what I'm helping someone to build their emotional intelligence and not get triggered just because, you know, someone doesn't like what I say. In order to have a, you know, intelligent discussion, right? If you can agree to disagree, that's helping people to know. I mean, I was working with a 21-year-old and her mom said, well, she follow all these people. She wants to lose weight. She follow all these people, you know, and she's doing this and doing that. I said, okay, who is she following? And she's naming all these names. And I'm like, I go, you know, she goes, but it's good that she's following people. I say, yeah, but you have to know who you're following. Don't you want to know who you're following? You don't just follow to follow. And she goes, oh yeah, you're right. You know, they're not thinking about it. You know, so we're here to help them to be more consciously aware. What are you doing?
Yeah, no,
Is there
it makes me think of you know, it's like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So even those people that are overly individual, like they're still working on borrowed beliefs, and they're still working on whatever you want to call it, conditioning, and you know, other external. It's like protesting, right? It's not even individual. It's not the same type of individualism that you're speaking of,
Right.
of knowing what your own true values are,
Yeah.
because then you wouldn't feel the need to do X, Y, or Z per se.
Right.
But yeah, that's like they said, that's what made me think of like that kind of. So I do think, I don't know what you would call it in NLP, like self-realization at the top, but you know, there is that, like, you might jump up to the higher floors, but then you're going to come back down, and then you're going to go back up, and then you're going to come back down.
Because
You're going to go up, down.
this is more about like your
At least
thinking,
for
right?
me.
Your thinking level, right? Where
Yeah.
your thinking is, because many times, you know, us human beings, you can think a certain way, but you're doing something completely different,
Yeah.
right? So in our work, is for your listeners to remember, is our work is to help someone to understand intelligence has nothing to do with behavior.
Yeah.
You can know the smartest person They can do the stupidest things. So intelligence has nothing to do with behavior.
Yeah. And it's funny, so okay, that makes me think of, well, I don't understand, why would you do that? Or why would they do that, right? So what do you say? Like, how do you explain it then? When it's like, well, you're so smart, why would you do something so stupid? And what you said before was so golden when you said, we're all very intelligent. It's when emotions come in. So can you speak to that?
Emotions drive it. I wrote it down when you said that. Emotions
Yeah.
drive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the emotion is taking the driver's seat, right?
It's like an intoxicated driver.
And then you can start with one emotions, and then you're gonna end up with 5 or 10. And then you're still down that road. It's like, where are you going? So
Yeah.
of course, thoughts comes with it too, because emotions, and you start thinking. There's people that has the thought then feel, and the other people, other opposites. So, but either way, if you lead with the emotions, there is no logic, none whatsoever. You cannot even solve anything with emotions. I mean, you don't even have to do this work
Yeah.
to know.
And that's the other thing that I struggle with sometimes now in this like intuitive culture, which is great. People are starting to become more aware, but it's like they almost give away their power. Like, well, let me check in and see how I'm feeling. But it's not really actually what they're feeling, because it's not, they're so disconnected from it. It's almost like a bypass. Have you experienced that? Like, oh, well, like I'm not like, I wasn't feeling like, my intuition said I shouldn't go to work today. And it's like, well, I think you should go to work unless you're not feeling well. Like, so and I'm not making fun of it, because listen, I've been there. Went through all these weird stages as well. Or I shouldn't say weird, but different stages. So can you speak to what's going on with that, or that trend?
With that is sometimes it can go a little sour there, with the spiritual work. I mean, we're working with mind, body, and spirit, all three, not just spirit only. So I think, a lot of times if someone is very heavily in just energy, spiritual work, that to me, that my experience as well, it's very temporary. Um, I don't want to say fix, but it's very temporary change, because you have not dealt with the real stuff, and I like to say, you cannot go around it, the problem. You can't go under it. You can't go over it. You got to
You
go
try,
through
yeah.
it.
You gotta go through it. Yeah, no,
You have
absolutely.
to go
And
through it.
I do think sometimes it is a necessary stage, where you're in that like spiritual, oh my gosh, what's happening? That's when you should call a coach or a hypnotherapist. Like, they'll know what to do and how to, gently guide you through it. So you're not making destabilizing decisions or changing things so drastically so fast.
Right, right. And, I mean, sure, a lot of people like to do it themselves, and it does help. And yet sometimes if you get to that layer, your subconscious mind or unconscious mind is very slippery. So you'll be having many dialogues instead of discovering the solution, I should say. So
Yeah.
Before you said emotions drive it, you had said step out of your problems, analyze from,
a different
distance,
perspective.
right? Are they your thoughts or are they thoughts of others? When is it time to, or is it not time? Is this just a cheat that is not allowed? When is it time to separate yourself from, and I was just talking to somebody about this today, actually, about how the 5 people that you're with the most, you start to embody some of them, and right, you become those people that you are in that inner circle of yours. When's it time to cut that cord with them? If they're bringing too much negativity and limiting beliefs onto you and kind of incepting thoughts into you, I guess ideally you're strong enough where you can have the membrane up where you only let their positivity and their contributions to you in, and you kind of shield yourself from other stuff. But When is removing yourself and finding a tribe that is breeding positivity a way to make this easier? Because it would seem to me that even if you have these skills, it's draining to try to filter that stuff out and try to just say, "Oh, I have my own thoughts. This negative energy is something that I can deal with," right? It seems like that would be draining to deal with on a weekly, monthly, daily basis, right? So when do you know it's time to move on, or is moving on just a workaround and that means you're not really doing the inner work? So can you answer maybe both of those?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer in a general term first. When is when do you know is when the person knows. Do you have enough of this person's energy or not? That's I can't tell you or anyone when to leave that person, because maybe that person enjoys it in a different, there's a secondary gain somewhere. I don't know, you know, but only when that person knows. It's how much of it are you taking it in? Because with my clients in the past, when I just one of them in particular, um, she has a lot of physical illness, and gee, I wonder why. She goes to homes and she talks to them and do her thing. And what I asked her is, when you start feeling the things that you're feeling, what she described to me, I said, that would be a signal for you to ask yourself, is this me or not? Because if you don't ask yourself, that's where your conscious mind should pop in. And if that doesn't pop in, then forget it. You're going to be forever down that rabbit hole of, is it me, them, or this is all me and I know how you feel, and then that's the reason a lot of times when people don't enforce and practice to enforce their own internal boundaries. And many times I understand they want to help. A lot of them are in helping, right, industry. Yet is helping them to know to separate that. It's okay to feel for others. All of us do. But you need to know when that's going to, you only you know. And they have to set the gauge themselves. And that's a practice. It's not just one session and they know how to do it, you know. And then when we're talking about authenticity, that's not learned. To me, that you're born, you either have it or you don't. You can be cordial and respectful, right? But you don't need to use authenticity. Whether you're authentic or not, you're born with it. Just like the same thing as class. You're born with that. You don't learn it. You could, but it's just not natural, right? So it's about, and the healing industry too. We used to also hold energy workshop, and what we like to say, what we learned is the healer is your client. We're all healers, right? And we're just there to guide you to bring the healer out of you. I can heal myself. I'm a healer. My client's a healer too, because they can heal themselves, because your body heals itself. When you get a cut, what does it do? Put a Band-Aid on or not, it just heals itself. How does it do that? Right? So if you trust your body's intelligence that it can do so much for you and your mind, if you trust that, then a lot of amazing things can happen, because your mind is a very powerful tool.
Yeah. And I think, there's a great message to wrap up with, in the sense that we're not taught that, right? We're not taught that the wisdom of the mind and the body can heal itself. I mean, if you look at nature, it's like, well, yeah, of course, right? Animals can heal themselves. Like, why wouldn't humans be able to heal themselves, right? And so I love that you said that about healers. It probably isn't the best marketing approach, but I always say, I'm not healing you. I'm not healing
But you got to call
like,
yourself that, because how do you,
right. Yes. I'm not healing anyone.
Yeah.
I'm giving you the space and the confidence or the grit or whatever you want to call it to find that your self-healing mechanism,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
so that's what I love that I learned from the best. So thank you. I appreciate
You're
that. And
welcome. This is great. And
yeah.
I'll leave you with this with your listeners. Just remember this: knowledge is adding, wisdom is subtracting.
Mm, I love that. I love that. I usually ask a question about the book. Do you have another book that you'd recommend? So I say, what is one book that everybody should read on their journey? You mentioned Letting Go by David Hawkins.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think his work is really great. Any other book you would
Yeah.
recommend?
Another book is Self-Compassion from written by Dr. I think Kristen Nuff, Nuff. I have
Okay,
to double
we'll
check
get
the
that on
book,
the
but
site.
it's Self-Compassion. That's a great book too. I really, really enjoyed that book. So
Yeah,
those two are the books, both books I recommend my clients.
great.
Yeah, I mean, it shows your authenticity because both of those, just from what you've spoken about them in the title and everything, it's about doing it yourself, right? There's not something out there that you can research and study. With the Hawking book and then the Enough book, you have the power within you
Mm-hmm.
to let it happen and then take that journey with yourself. There's so many things that we could talk about. I do want to, hopefully we will see you again and we can maybe discuss a little bit about how kind of self-care and
Mm-hmm.
self improvement, how that's developing, back home, but in like the motherland, right? I don't know if you got a lot of friends, family that your mom kind of reports about or you talk about when you go visit her, things like that, like how they are dealing with, people being more aware of this kind
Mm-hmm.
of work. And it's just very curious about that, compare
Because
and contrast.
because
But
I'm working with the hypnosis school in Taiwan, so I
oh,
can
that's
definitely share.
awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll definitely can delve into that. I usually like to ask for a little bit of advice for our listeners, an actionable item of something that you do. But I am curious. This is a different question than I usually ask. A lot of people that follow us, listen, view, kind of get engaged with the site and the podcast are curious already. So they do have at least a little bit of an open eye, right? A mindset that they are curious. What do we tell people that know somebody that we think needs to kind of go on this journey, right? And they're resistant.
Mm.
How can we get those people to be a little bit open-minded? Is there an elevator pitch that we can try to give to people to say, this can do so much for you, right? It's done so much for me. I think that you should just, if you give this a try, mind, body, spirit, one, just the mind, just the body, just the spirit all together. It doesn't matter the stage that you're at. Is there a way that we can encourage them, push them, or pull them towards this road so they can get started?
Yeah, I think it's, the one way is if they're complaining to you the same thing over and over again, it's one of the questions that, do you want to do something about it? Instead of engaging in the conversation and repeating your advice, because that's already in one ear, out the other, right? So it's asking them questions. Do you want to do something about it? You know, and also just slowly disengage. If they're talking about it, you don't have to say anything. Nod, you know. Or another question you can ask, because this is talking to people who's a mismatcher, right? When they want to say, that they're going to say no, whatever you say. You can say, I know you're not going to do this. What did you just do? And if they want to mismatch you, they would have to say yes, right?
Yeah.
I know
A
you're not
little
going to
reverse
do this,
psychology. Yeah.
right? So all of us already do this one way or another,
Hmm.
but in coaching, we're using it intentionally in the sessions.
Yeah.
So it's not nothing new. It's just that we're teaching you how to use it intentionally and how to form questions, to ask. But those are pretty much the ones, because
Are you going to do something about it?
yeah,
Right.
do you want to do something about it, or
Do
do you want to
something
keep
about it.
talking about it?
Yeah. And then, yeah, like you said, disengage because they don't there's a secondary gain, like you said, of them complaining, because they're going to get you to do something, whether it's get mad, even that's a response too, right? So that's great advice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've learned a lot.
Thank
We've
you
only
so
really
much.
scratched the one layer, right? There's many
I
layers
know,
that we
yeah.
can
I mean,
explore.
we can go for
Um,
hours and
I
days.
know.
sure.
Can you imagine if Jack is here?
Oh my gosh, tell Jack hello, and we wanna hear his podcast.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Evelyn, where can people find you online? Where are the best spots where, they can reach out to you and make use of your knowledge and your programs? And can you give them a little preview of what they'll expect when they find you?
Sure. The website, I'll just make it easy for it's We Help You Change. So you can go there, it just routes you to Center for Advanced Life Skills. And our center, we provide certifications for hypnotherapy, NLP coaching, and mindfulness. So our mindfulness courses it's a little different than the standard mindfulness because we teach hypnosis and NLP, so we kind of incorporate that into the mindfulness practice. Yeah, because in our students right now, there's a couple of them teaching mindfulness, and they're fascinated. They don't know how to put it together. I said, mindfulness is trance. It's the same thing. So that's what we do. We're now working on doing just doing a little more short workshops, small workshops. But our training the entire training is about 21, 22 days, but you can break it up and take the first module first, which is hypnosis, and then the second module, NLP.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Evelyn.
Thank you.
Definitely
Thank you for
encourage anyone
having me.
interested. Yeah, we'll do it again soon.
Thank you so much. Pleasure meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Bye.